Now, we want to filter by particular health units. We want a CSV file with outbreaks in the Huron-Perth, Lambton County, and Niagara Region public health units. This time we have a couple of routes we can use to filter our data frame. We could either filter by public health unit name or by public health unit number. Let's take a quick look at our data frame just to refresh our memory. So if we look at our data frame, we have the date that the outbreak occurred, the public health unit name, and another column called public health unit number. Why is this important? Well, this gets into an issue that you can find with doing string comparisons. So equality comparisons on string columns, they can work fine, but sometimes they can be unreliable. For example, over a long period of time, names can change, but identifiers, especially numeric identifiers, generally stay constant. They don't change. Don't forget that in Canada, we are a bilingual country. Health units can have different names in English and French, but generally speaking, identifiers will remain the same across languages. In my work, I always recommend that you use the route that will produce the results with the least chance for error. And if you have a unique identifier column, especially if it's a number, I suggest that you use that when you want to filter by specific entities. So remember that week 4, we could drop columns via the drop function and pass in the columns that we want to drop by name or index. Well, we can also ask Pandas to give us a data frame with only the columns that we want to keep. So we drop columns by saying which columns we want to keep. What we're going to build up is a map of public health unit names to their health unit identifiers. And we're going to do this by dropping all of the columns except for public health unit name and public health unit number. And we'll create a new data frame called health map. Let's take a look at this. Coming back to Python, we're going to create a new data frame and we'll call it health map equals data. And I want to filter this down to just the columns PHU name and PHU number. And if we run this code, you'll see that we have a new data frame called health map. But if I open it up, I've got duplicate rows. We still have 43,000 and some odd rows. The public health unit names and IDs have been duplicated. How can we deal with this? Well, it turns out Pandas has a built-in function which allows us to remove duplicate values from a data frame, and that function is called drop duplicates. This will return a data frame with only unique sets of rows. So what we'll do is first filter our data frame, and then we will drop the duplicates. Let's see how this works. So I'll come back into Python, and I will say health map equals health map dot drop underscore duplicates. And if I look at the health map object now, I have 34 rows, 2 columns. I have a unique list of all of the health units and their public health unit identifying number. So to go back to our original question, should we filter on string or should we filter on the health unit number? And because we have an identifier, we can make our life easier, prevent typos, and prevent weird naming issues by filtering on the public health unit ID. So given the choice between an ID and a string, you want to filter on the identifier column. So if we inspect our health map data frame, and I suggest that you pause the video here and just quickly inspect the health map data frame. Jot down the values for the Huron-Perth, Lambton County, and Niagara Region health units. So after inspecting the health map data frame, we see that Huron-Perth has an ID of 5183, Lambton has 2242, and Niagara has 2246. And so by combining our equality and logical operators, we can filter our data frame by public health unit number, can't we? All right, so let's give this a try. Let's try writing a filter condition for this. So we'll create a filter called PHU ID filter. And we'll set this equal to our first condition, which is data PHU number is equal to 5183, or I'll put the new line in first and then do or data PHU number is equal to 2242, or data PHU number column is equal to 2246. And then finally, I'll create a data frame called PHU filtered and set that equal to data PHU ID filter. And if I look at PHU filtered, I see that I've got Huron-Perth, Lambton County, Niagara region. I could use PHU name.unique to confirm to myself that I've got only Huron-Perth, Lambton County, and Niagara region health units. So this is one way that we can filter our data. However, you might have noticed that as I was typing, I was starting to make a couple of mistakes. I'm repeating the same code over and over. Data PHU number equals, data PHU number equals, data PHU number equals. So this filter statement is starting to get long, and it could be prone to errors, couldn't it? What we have are 3 health unit IDs, and we're asking the question, give me the health unit IDs give me the rows where the health unit ID is in the set of 5183 or 2242 or 2246. Fortunately, Pandas has another trick up its sleeve. Since we're asking the question, give me the records where the public health unit ID is part of the following list of health unit IDs, we can take advantage of another built-in function on our data frame column called the isIn function. We can use this to filter our data frame. This is the equivalent of writing, is PHU number equal to 5183, or is PHU number equal to 2242, or is PHU number equal to 2246. So we can save ourselves a lot of code if we want to check if a column's value is part of a given list. Let's try writing this filter condition. So I'll come down here and I'll create another variable called PHU filter2 or PHU filter alt. I'll set this equal to data PHU num dot is in, and then I will provide a list of public health unit numbers. Now, I could also create another variable and say PHU nums to filter and set this equal to a new list using square brackets. I could say 5183, comma 2242, comma 2246. Then I can pass this PHU nums to filter into my isIn function. And if I look at PHU filter alt, again, this is a calculated column where we get false and true for each row. And finally, I can create PHU filtered 2 is equal to data PHU filter alt. And you'll see it produces the same number of rows as our original filter, except this time we've written this filter condition with a lot less lines of code. So our old filter condition required 3 lines of code just to write the filter to see if public health unit number is 5183 or 2242 or 2246. In 3 lines, we've written our entire filter. That's 4 tasks down, and we have 1 to go. Our last task will be to give a CSV file where there are 20 or more active outbreaks in workplaces and education, or places where there are more than 40 active outbreaks.